Europe is racing against time as the Ukraine war tilts on a knife edge. Washington says progress is real. President Zelensky is sounding optimistic, but Trump's pressure is reshaping the talks in real time. As missiles slam into Kharkiv and oil depots burn inside Russia, the question rings louder. Will Putin agree to the deal? Here's a report.
It's a desperate race against the clock. While diplomats scramble in Swiss meeting rooms, the battleground is active. Russia continues to march forward, gaining new ground in Ukraine. Kharkiv is hit by a merciless Russian drone onslaught. The city left burning, mourners counting the dead and doubting if the talks will ease their pain.
We don't believe in peace negotiations, because while they, politicians, sit at the negotiating table with a pen, we are hit by missiles and bombs. People die. A woman was killed today. Her remains were only just retrieved now. The plan would mean surrender and giving up territories. Not only territories, but also Ukraine's interests and independence. Something Ukraine has fought for all these years, freedom and independence. All of this would now collapse and nothing would be left.
Ukrainian drones continue to strike deep into Russia, targeting oil facilities. Russian air defenses neutralize Ukrainian drone heading towards Moscow. This is the face of Europe's bloodiest war in generations. Neither side blinking, both sides escalating. US officials say Donald Trump wants Ukraine to sign off on the framework for peace plan by next Thursday. His warning is blunt: accept the deal or risk losing American intelligence, weapons and billions of dollars in support. Ukrainian leaders, already squeezed militarily and financially, are trying to negotiate without bending the knee. Now, a new round of talks in Switzerland has sparked hope and optimism in Europe, Ukraine and the US.
Clearly, I think we all recognize that part of getting a final end to this war will require for Ukraine to feel as it is safe and it is never going to be invaded or attacked again. So that's clearly something that has to be discussed. I think we've made substantial progress on that and other points.
Ukraine's interests are also Europe's common interests, and we want to safeguard them together in the long term. This means that Ukraine must not be forced to make unilateral territorial concessions.
The first priority is reliable peace, guaranteed security, respect for our people, respect for everyone who has given their lives defending Ukraine from Russian aggression.
Zelensky, who was again called ungrateful by the US president, could travel to Washington this week to discuss the most sensitive aspects of the plan with Trump. All eyes are now on Moscow. Will the Russian president, who has the upper hand on the battlefield, agree to a truce? Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Let's talk to our correspondent now. Ross Cullen is live in Geneva. Ross Cullen, good to see you. The US delegation and the Ukrainian delegation held a meeting yesterday, and today they were finalizing or ironing out the 28-point peace plan. What's the latest from your end?
Well, the latest is that the Ukrainian delegation are on their way home. Marco Rubio, the US Secretary of State, has returned to the United States as well. But technical talks continue, and we are looking ahead to a meeting of the coalition of the willing group of Ukraine's Western allies like the UK, France and Germany. They're scheduled to meet online on Tuesday. Also taking place today is a virtual meeting of all of the 27 leaders of the European Union, for them to have a chance to digest and take stock of what has happened over the weekend, with Ukraine meeting European national security advisors in the morning of Sunday. And then yesterday afternoon, the Ukrainian delegation and the US delegation, Marco Rubio and Andriy Yermak, who's Volodymyr Zelensky's chief of staff, are heading their two respective groups of representatives to try to thrash out a new version of that 28-point peace plan, one which is potentially more favourable to Ukraine. But there are still divisions over the territorial integrity of Ukraine. Should some parts of Ukraine be given away to Russia? That is a red line for Ukraine, but it's something that might have to come up for further discussions. And if there can be an agreement by the European leaders and Ukraine and the United States, they might then be able to look towards a possible Trump-Zelensky summit to sign a peace accord. But we have heard from Russia just in the last few minutes, which has been saying that it looks down or is not in agreement with the European counter proposals. They've got some other ideas of themselves, the Europeans, but it seems for now that the United States wants to try to work in close concert with Ukraine. Marco Rubio certainly was very positive, said it was a tremendous progress that had been made in his meeting with the Ukrainians, saying it was very productive, saying it was very constructive, certainly trying to paint a positive picture of the narrowing differences between Washington and Kiev ahead of any possible final peace accord.
Ross, we also understand that President Putin did have a discussion with the Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan about the 28-point peace plan. We also had a statement from Ursula von der Leyen. What did she say? Because she said there are 3 points that Europe has to fight for.
Yeah, sorry, could you repeat that?
Ursula von der Leyen issued a statement yesterday. She said that in the peace proposal, there are 3 points that Europe is looking to iron out.
Yeah, it's couldn't quite catch the question, but in terms of Ursula von der Leyen, her national security, the chief of her cabinet and the chief of Antonio Costa's cabinet, the president of the European Council, they were both also here on Sunday for other close meetings with the European national security advisors and the Ukrainian delegation as well. Europe is trying to show that it has influence and a seat at the table, but it remains to be seen if the European proposals will be taken on board and will actually be able to be part of that final peace proposal, because certainly the Russians have poured cold water on the idea that there could be European new proposals inserted into that 28-point peace plan. For example, the right for Ukraine to join NATO in the future if it wants. Europe says it's not in a position at the moment for that to happen. There's no consensus among NATO member states, but it shouldn't be enshrined in Ukraine's constitution that it can never apply to join NATO. That's what Russia wants to see in Ukraine's constitution. That was in the United States proposal first time round. That's what Europe want to see removed from the proposal. So there's a lot still to be discussed between Washington and Kiev. Can they come together to agree on this peace accord? Because then that would have to be presented to Moscow.
Ross Cullen, thank you.